Hello, my friend, and welcome to the study. In the next few days, it will be the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. This is the darkest part of our year up here, and we have very short days that are made even shorter by passing clouds and cold weather. So to mark this solstice, the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, I thought I would bring you some interesting little bits of story and information, and some lovely relaxing sounds to wrap you in the warmth of the winter night, because from then on the days will only begin to get longer and longer as we head towards the warmer months. Far in the distance. Here we have our friend, this compass. Do you remember that? Makes lots of tinkly noises and has a sundial so that we can find noon, and its wooden box that also makes some lovely soft sounds on the wood with the brass brackets and hinges. And I've also got a quirky little manuscript to show you. And of course, a story. On the 21st of December 2022, the winter solstice falls at 21:48, the moment that the sun is directly overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. This is the southernmost latitude at which it can be directly overhead. At solar noon, the sun will reach an altitude of 15 degrees in the London sky. By the 21st of December, the day length has decreased from the first by 27 minutes. But by the end of the month, it will have increased by 6 minutes from the solstice. Another thing we can look forward to during these dark winter months is the aurora borealis here in the north. The northern lights, streaks of light across the sky that have been associated in Northern European mythology with the story of the Wild Hunt. Tonight I'll read this story by Walter Mapes, or Map, is in his De Nugis Curialium, which means the trinkets or trifles of the courtiers. Walter Map was a member of the court of Henry II in the 12th century. During a busy time for European history, Henry II's court was in Oxford, and his wife was Eleanor of Aquitaine, previously married to Louis VII of France. Henry's sons, Richard and John, had been away, Richard on the Third Crusade. Of Welsh descent, Walter Map travelled widely in his work and studies to places like Canterbury, Paris, Rome, and several noble courts around Europe. His book, written in Latin, is a series of diverse anecdotes of people and places, stories, with some commentary on the events and people of his own time, either from personal knowledge or popular rumours. Some events and comments more accurate than others. He seems to have had some thinly veiled contempt for some of the courtiers and life at court. His book is in 5 sections, and the titles of some of the stories, which vary greatly, are, for example, a comparison of royal courts with hell, the tale of an elderly king of Portugal, capture of Jerusalem by Saladin, the founding of the Knights Templar, the Old Man of the Mountain, Knights Hospitaller, foundation of the Cistercian order, heretic or robber bands known as routiers, Brabantiens or Brabazons, the heretics called publicans and Patarines, Waldensians, Third Lateran Council of Rome, and a petition to Pope Alexander III, a meeting with Luke of Hungary, anecdote about a hermit, a demonic pet snake, and foolish charity, Welsh religious practices, tales of King Llewellyn and his wife, with a discussion between Walter Map and Thomas Becket, tales of vampires, ghosts, tales of wild Eldric and his fairy bride, and their son Alnoth, Saint Anthony, story of a Cluniac monk, the story of the boy Udo, deceived by the devil, Saint Jerome, story of Alain, the so-called King of Brittany, the story of the merman, Nicholas Pipe, Henry I of England and Louis VI of France, the death of William II of England, Map's account of the character of King Henry II, and dispute with Henry's illegitimate son, Geoffrey, which rounds off his book. The tale of King Herla and the Wild Hunt forms one of the stories in Mapes's Book of Trinkets of the Courtiers. The Wild Hunt itself exists in all of the folklore of various northern European cultures and involves a chase or a hunt led by a mythological figure and escorted by a ghostly or supernatural group of hunters, hounds, and riders. The leader of the hunt might be a prominent figure, Odin in Germanic legend, or an historical or legendary figure like Theodoric or Dietrich, Herod, Cain, Gabriel, or even the devil himself. The hunters are the souls of the dead, ghostly horses or dogs, or sometimes fairies, valkyries, or elves. Seeing the wild hunt might be a premonition of some catastrophic event or abduction into the underworld or the fairy kingdom. Sometimes people's spirits could be pulled away in their sleep to join the ghostly cavalcade. Jakob Grimm, the famous linguist of the late 18th century, popularized this term wilde Jagd, or wild hunt, in his Deutsche Mythologie, which was published in 1835. In England, it was known as Herla's Thing, or Herla's Assembly. It was also known as Woden's Hunt, Herod's Hunt, Cain's Hunt, and in Cornwall, the Devil's Dandy Dogs. In Welsh folklore, Gwynabnud was the wild huntsman riding a demon horse, hunting souls at night along with a pack of white-bodied and red-eared dogs of hell. In Arthurian legend, he is the king of the underworld who makes sure that the imprisoned devils do not destroy human souls. Latin sources in France refer to the hunt as Familia Elecini, and in Old French as Maisnie Heliquin, or the household or retinue of Heliquin. The Old French name Heliquin was probably borrowed from the Middle English Herla, king. In Old English it's Herla König, via the Romance-speaking Norman invaders of Britain. King Herla, the legendary leader of the mythical Germanic wild hunt, is often identified with Woden or Wotan, and in Walter Map's 12th century text here, he is portrayed as a legendary king of the Britons. He becomes the leader of the wild hunt after his visit to the other world, and we shall see how this plays out. The same figure in Germanic paganism was described first by Tacitus in terms of the Harii, who fought at night, taking the appearance of an army of ghosts. The later Germanic tribe of the Heruli related to Herla, so we have several different possibilities for the origin of the name Herla. King Herla is also possibly related to the German Erlkönig, or Earl King. In other words, the elf king that was written about in Goethe's poem Erlkönig and put to music by Schubert. Map writes, however, that some say Herla's band plunged into the River Wye during the first year of the reign of King Henry II, the year 1154, and has never been seen since. Let's have a look at Walter Map's story of King Herla and the Wild Hunt. This is a leaf from this funny little manuscript. by Walter Map De Nubis Curialum. This is the one that tells about King Herla. De Herla Rege 11. Shall we see if we can read this together? We have U, Na, and a stripe here, meaning M. Unam, and we have T, A, with another stripe. Unam, Tamen, and it's very light, but you can just make out et. Unam tamen et solam. We have a lot of abbreviations and instances of light ink as well. So we have to go a bit slowly. Unam tamen et solam. You can barely see that is an H. Who, ik. It's very hard to see some of the very thin strokes, but that is huik. And en nostre curie being cares, and here we have a very stylized S there for similem, fuisse, fabulae, a beautiful D, look at that, de, derunt, so de derunt, and then we have a stylized abbreviation for que. Dicunt. There's another stripe. I. Very thin C. U-N-T. And dicunt. And here we have the king Herlam Regem. And A-N-T-I. The Q almost looks like a G. And there's our que abbreviation above. So this is going to be antiquissimorum. Very long word, which means the abbreviation makes it shorter, but it's still quite long. Antiquissimorum, and B, Britonum, Possitum, again all of those strikes above for abbreviations and saving space, and lovely stylized ad, R-A, rationem, ab, altero rege, qui pygmeus. Look at this lovely curvy stylized hand here. Pygmeus. And here we have, looks like videbatur. You can just barely see these abbreviations there. Here we have what looks to be some corrections. And with this correction, it's an M-O. It looks like it was something else and someone's made a correction. And so it's rendered modikitate. Modikitate. And this requires a little bit of finessing there. Modikitate stature. Que, there's our funny looking Q with abbreviation. Non, another abbreviation. Que non. And here's a lovely little EX. Exque debat. And our last word in abbreviation as well. Simiam. Unam tamen et solam huic nostre curiae similem fuisse fabulae dederunt, quae dicunt Herlam regem antiquissimorum Britonum positum ad racionem ab altero rege, qui pygmeus virebatur moditate stature, qui non excedebat simiam. One court, and one only, do stories tell of that is like our own. A king of the most ancient Britons, Herla, it is said, was on a time interviewed by another king, who was a pygmy in respect of his own low stature, not above that of a monkey. This little creature was mounted on a large goat, says the tale, and might be described in the same terms as Pan. His visage was fiery red, his head huge. He had a long red beard reaching to his chest, which was gaily attired in a spotted fawn's skin. His belly was hairy, and his legs declined into goat's hooves. Herla found himself tete-a-tete with this being, who said, "I am the king over many kings and princes, an unnumbered and innumerable people, and I am sent, a willing messenger by them to you. I am unknown to you, it is true, but I glory in the renown which has exalted you above other monarchs, inasmuch as you are a hero, and also closely connected with me in place and descent, and so deserve that your wedding should be brilliantly adorned by my presence as a guest, so soon as the king of the Franks has bestowed his daughter upon you. This matter is being already arranged, though you know it not, and the ambassadors will be here this very day. Let this be a lasting agreement between us, that I shall first attend your wedding and you mine on the same day a year hence." With these words, swifter than a tiger, he turned and vanished from view. The king returned home struck with wonder, received the ambassadors, and accepted their proposals. When he took his place in state on the wedding day, before the first course, the pygmy made his appearance, with so vast a crowd of similar beings that the tables were filled, and a larger number sat down to meat outside the hall than within it, in pavilions brought by the pygmy, which were set up in a moment of time. Out of these pavilions darted servants bearing vessels each made of a single precious stone, by some not imitable art, and filled the palaces and the tents with plate of gold and jewels, No food or drink was served in silver or wood. Wherever they were wanted, they were at hand. Nothing that they brought was from the royal stock or elsewhere. They lavished their own provision throughout, and what they had brought with them more than satisfied the utmost wishes of all. Nothing of Herla's preparations was touched. His own servants sat with their hands before them, neither called for nor offering aid. Round went the pygmies, gaining golden opinions from everyone. Their splendid clothing and jewels made them shine like burning lights among the company. Never importunate, never out of the way, they vexed no one by act or word. Their king, while his servants were in the midst of their business, addressed King Herla in these terms. Noble king, I take God to witness that I am here present at your wedding in accordance with our agreement. Yet if there be anything more of your contract than you see here that you can prescribe to me, I will gladly supply it to the last point. If there be nothing, see that you do not put off the repayment of the honor conferred on you when I shall require it. And so, without awaiting a reply, he swiftly betook himself to his pavilion, and about cock-crow departed with his people. After a year had passed, he suddenly appeared before Herla, and called on him to fulfill his agreement. To this he consented, and after providing himself with supplies sufficient for an adequate repayment, he followed whither he was led. The party entered a cave on a high cliff, and after an interval of darkness, passed, in a light which seemed to proceed not from the sun or moon, but from a multitude of lamps, to the mansion of the pygmy. This was as comely in every part as the palace of the sun described by Naso. Here the wedding was celebrated, the pygmy's offices duly recompensed, and when leave was given, Herla departed laden with gifts and presents of horses, dogs, hawks, and every appliance of the best for hunting and fowling. The pygmy escorted them as far as the place where the darkness began, and then presented the king with a small bloodhound to carry, strictly enjoining him that on no account must any of his train dismount until that dog leapt from the arms of his bearer, and so took leave and returned home. Within a short space, Herla arrived once more at the light of the sun and at his kingdom, where he accosted an old shepherd and asked for news of his queen, naming her. The shepherd gazed at him with astonishment and said, "Sir, I can hardly understand your speech, for you are a Briton, and I a Saxon. But the name of that queen I have never heard, save that they say that long ago there was a queen of that name over the very ancient Britons, who was the wife of King Herla, and he, the old story says, disappeared in company with a pygmy at this very cliff, and was never seen on earth again, and it is now 200 years since the Saxons took possession of this kingdom and drove out the old inhabitants." The king, who thought he had made a stay of but 3 days, could scarce sit his horse for amazement. Some of his company, forgetting the pygmy's orders, dismounted before the dog had alighted, and in a moment fell into dust. Whereupon the king, comprehending the reason of their dissolution, warned the rest under pain of like death not to touch the earth before the alighting of the dog. The dog has not yet alighted, and the story says that this King Herla still holds on his mad course with his band in eternal wanderings without stop or stay. Many assert that they have often seen the band, but recently it is said, in the first year of the coronation of our King Henry, it ceased to visit our land in force as before. In that year it was seen by many Welshmen to plunge into the River Wye of Hereford. From that hour the phantom journeying has ceased, as if they had terminated their wanderings to us and betaken themselves to repose. Yet, if you are not willing to note how lamentable this unrest may be, not only in our own court, but in almost all those of great princes, you will have to enjoin silence on me. I shall be quite satisfied, and it will assuredly be fairer. Will you listen for a brief space to an account of a certain recent events? Oh, my friends, I hope you're nice and relaxed and comfortable and cozy as we are shrouded together in the darkness of the longest night in the Northern Hemisphere, where mystical things are born, stories and imagination abound, as we wait with patience for the warmer, brighter months, where our activity will be more. But for now, we dream. Be good to yourself. Be kind to others. And be extraordinary.